welcome to Wired Women. I'm so excited that you're able to join us today.
Hi, Jennifer. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you introduce yourself to our audience? I know you're out there in Las Vegas. It must be so nice and amazing and warm out there. Please tell us what you're doing in Las Vegas and who is Shannon Quilty.
Hello. Okay. Well, yes, I am in Las Vegas currently. It is going to be 109 degrees Fahrenheit today. So yeah, it's warm. There's a nice pool outside, but you can't really use it when it's 109 degrees. Anyhow, I'm generally based in Los Angeles, but it looks like I'm going to base between Los Angeles and Las Vegas for a little while. A little bit about me. Well, I've been in the real estate industry for years. Mostly retail real estate has been my passion. I come at it from a long line of people, a long line of women in real estate, actually. My grandmother held a real estate license until shortly before she passed away. My mother was a shopping center property manager, had her own company for a while, as well as working within many corporations and, bigger firms. My sister, my aunt, and myself, and it's sort of, I don't know how it happened, but we all wound up in some respect working in the retail real estate industry. I kind of grew up with it. So that's where I come from. After going through a cycle of being sure I wasn't going to do what my mother did, here I am. Then I went and decided, yes, I'm going to do what my mother did. And so that's what I have been doing for the bulk of my career. Yeah.
Amazing. That's fascinating. So you come from a line of very powerful women, and real estate tends to be one of those industries that is supposedly lopsided towards men. So it's quite interesting and fascinating to find that there's a lot of powerful women that have actually managed to penetrate through that market. What would you say would be your power tool that has kept you going in the real estate industry thus far?
Relationships. Seriously, relationships matter, and it doesn't. I remember having a conversation with a young man. I was bringing him over to Las Vegas. I was at the time working in LA, and I brought him over for ICSE, for the International Council of Shopping Centers, big to-do every year that they have here. And I remember him asking me as we got off the plane, okay, so are you going to tell me who are the people who are important for me to pay attention to? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, yeah, everybody. And he's like, well, no, the important people, the people that I need to, connect with. And I said, everybody. You're a young man. You're going to be in this career, hopefully, this industry for a long time. You're not always going to be here in this place, and that person's not always going to be there in that place. Show everybody respect. One of my, I guess, I don't know if you call them organizing principles or whatever, but the things I live by is that not every meeting or introduction is immediately quantifiable, into something that can bring you value right that very second. However, or even within the next year. But it's a long game, your career is a long game. And it's important to begin there with keeping your mind open, understanding that everybody has something to share. So I think that is likely one of my, I suppose, if you want to, I don't know if you call them superpowers or whatever, but that's really important. That's at the essence, really, of who I am, and who I've always been. I was thinking recently, since our first conversation, since you and I first met, Jennifer, I've been thinking a lot about, trying to think about my history in a way that and kind of trying, so often we don't look at our own path, right? And you and I have been talking, and I'm like, well, geez, what is my path? What's my narrative thread? What's, all this stuff that people talk about now, and they sound so polished, and you and I were discussing that earlier about how I was kind of intimidated, because I can be polished if I need to be, but it's not my natural state.
Yeah, yeah. But I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Let me unpack that, what you just said, the point.
Okay.
It's about relationships. And I'm in PR myself, public relations. And the relationship aspect of public relations is the most cardinal, most important aspect. And people tend to water that down. They don't realize that begin any type of relationship, you've got to have that genuine, authentic relationship. That's what you were just saying now. And I really like it because, you know, it's like you said, again, to borrow your words, it's a very essence of any existence. You can't just walk into a relationship and expect to not be present. You've got to be present, mind, body, and soul. And in order to do that, and when if you do that, that means you're having a relationship of some sort with that person. So I really like that. I call it an attribute, and it's definitely a power tool that you've got.
I think that that's probably, you know, that, and I have a real desire to help, and that I is another thing I'm passionate about, especially helping other people to thrive. And I've done it sort of naturally throughout my life or my career, you know, just seeing somebody, you know, struggling or whatever, and just helping in any way that I can. I've often said I can be empathetic to a fault.
Women are like that, isn't it? We are always like that. I don't know if you saw the newsletter that I sent out today, that one of the clients that I interviewed last time, Christine, she talks about women doing that, forgetting to put your own oxygen mask. You're always wanting other people.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So here I've got a funny story to tell you about women. I was back in the 90s. I was very young. I was the incoming president of Commercial Real Estate Women in Portland, Oregon. And so we went to Washington, D.C. for our big national network of commercial real estate women conference and convention. And so here we are, all these women, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 1,000 women or more in this big ballroom. And the woman who is the president of the National Network of Commercial Real Estate Women goes up on stage and she's ready to start the program. But of course, we're all at tables of 10, we're eating, we're drinking, yak, 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 you know, doing exactly what one should be doing at one of these events, right? But she's trying to get our attention. And she's tapping on the microphone and she's saying, ladies, ladies. And she's like, hello. And nobody will stop. I mean, it gets a little quieter. And then finally she's like, ladies, I need your help. Place shuts up. All the women look up. What can I do? And she said, this is what she's noticed. She said, this is what I've noticed. In a room full of women, if you say, I need your help, everybody turns and looks to see what they can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was so interesting. And I mean, we're talking about 25 years ago that this happened. And it just sticks with me. And it works every time. Amazing. Because that's who we are.
Yeah,
you know,
that's in our DNA. We're naturally coded like that. We are that's our DNA coding as women. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, like another guest that I spoke to, she's like a mother bear. So I think that's a very good description as well. We get so protective of our environment. Yeah. We want to take care of everybody, and we tend to forget about our own selves. So that's
true. Yeah, and that's very true. And you know, I'm a single woman. I have no children. I have no spouse. I currently have no plants or pets. You know, I'm sort of the last boyfriend I had told me I was too much of a nomad or a gypsy. So I'm kind of all over the place, but my time is my own. And in that respect, unlike other people who have spouses or significant others and children and perhaps elderly parents or whatever to care for, I'm really, you know, I'm kind of on my own. And in some respects, that's very freeing, of course, but it's also, I don't know what the word is. It's not intimidating so much, but you know that you are, you know, you're relying on you. And like I say, there's the upside to that in that, you know, I can make a mistake and the mistake really, for the most part, impacts me, and that's
The
it.
buck stops with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I so there's a plus side to that, and there's a minus side to that. So when you talk about forgetting about yourself, I can see that happening for women in different situations, way more than it happens for me. But having said that, it does happen.
Yeah.
I find myself, like, for example, I just came off a project in California where the person that I was replacing had left because the client was abusive. And so I came in to replace that person and try to stabilize the project.
Yeah.
And really, I found that the several things that were most important in terms of getting that team working properly. I mean, I can't control an abusive client beyond the fact that I can say, you don't talk to my people that way. If you feel like you need to speak that way, you call me.
Yeah.
And I always do that. But it was about then caring for these people who had been really knocked down and felt like they were incompetent and were questioning their own abilities. And my job was to go in and say, no, that's not what the problem is. Her problem is her problem. Let's get back and refocus on the fact that you do know your business. You do know what you're talking about. You are bringing value. And so let's get back to that. And then from there, so once we can build that back, we can then have a different approach and a different way of reacting to that client's unpleasantness. And in that case, because we're reacting differently, that actually influences the behavior of the client.
I like that a lot. So you are in some ways a fixer. But also why I really like what you just said, because I read somewhere where it talks about, 90% of what happens to us is our reaction. We've got control of 10% of what happens to us is because of our own decisions, but 90% is how we react to the things that happen to us. And that's what I heard you saying, that's a great attribute and mindset to have. It's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So if I were to take you back to, let's say, 10, 20 years back, to your younger self, what would you say to Shannon?
Take yourself a bit more seriously.
All right. Why?
I think that, and I'm not sure, I think I told you this, but I'm not sure I did. I don't have a college degree. And I came out of high school. I went to work in a bank. I hated it. And it took me a little while, probably until my early 20s, to really figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. So I think that I still carry a little bit of this imposter syndrome with me, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think women in particular are susceptible to that. So I think that through a long piece of my career, I never thought that I deserved that seat at the table. And I never thought that, I thought, well, if I thought that was smart, then, if that was smart, then one of these other smart people, particularly men, would have said it already, right? And so I sit there with this thought in my head. I remember doing this in so many meetings. I sit there with this thought in my head, and I don't say it. And then somebody else does, a man usually, within, a few minutes. Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I open my mouth? Fear stops us from doing so many things, and insecurity. And so one of the things that those, honestly, that's the thing. Quit being insecure. Quit being letting fear and insecurity guide you.
Yeah.
And and that goes for not just in business, in so many things. And I see my niece now. My niece just turned 19. And I just want to wrap her in bubble wrap. But at the same time, I want to say, don't let fear and insecurity get in your way.
Yeah.
And maybe it takes a little bit more time. Maybe it takes a little bit more age, a little bit more judgment before you can really do that and be successful because you've got a little bit more judgment, a little bit more experience, you know. But there was a point probably 15 years ago. Yeah, about 15 years ago. And I was going through a point in my career where I was really dissatisfied. I was dissatisfied with the industry. I was dissatisfied with what I was doing. I was just all around unhappy. And I started to sit down. I sat down and I was trying to figure out how I can do something else, but still maintain my lifestyle, because I did enjoy my lifestyle. You know, I don't want to sacrifice or anything, but you know, how can I do something different? And so I was really looking at that, and it was kind of despairing a little bit, but I was really looking at it when I got a phone call from a guy that I used to work with in Portland, Oregon, who had gone over to Russia to open a shopping center for IKEA, because IKEA in Russia at that time, and now in more countries than just Russia, was a shopping center. They were going to open their first full shopping center, Western style shopping center in the Moscow city limits. And they had recruited him to go and do that work. So he had been trying to get me to go over for a while, but I just didn't really feel there was a compelling reason or something where I could bring value. And then one day he called me and he said, "Hey, listen, I actually do have this project. And if I had you on the pitch for this, I'm sure we'd get it, and you could come over here and we could start something." And I was like, wow, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I remember thinking for about 2 seconds, but I pretended to think longer because I felt like I should, right? I felt like I'm supposed to think longer about this, right? It's Russia, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And honestly, my answer was yes, even before the words finished coming out of his mouth. But then we had to, you know, there was some work to make it happen. And then it was just a matter of organizing, you know, and getting the company in Russia and organizing work visas and all of that. And so I think it took about the whole thing from the first time he said it to the time I got on the plane was probably 4 months.
Wow.
And yeah, it was pretty unnerving. And I moved from Southern California on the last day of January. It was beautiful, sunny day. On my terrace overlooking the ocean, and then when I came to, so to speak, after the fog of flying, it was I don't know, negative something, but apparently you don't have to say negative when there's snow on the ground. It's a given. And there I was in Moscow, just like, wow.
So if I could take you back to a point, sorry for interrupting you, but I didn't want to forget this point. You made a point where you said, like, when you sat in a boardroom and sometimes you'll be thinking of an answer and you don't come up with an answer, and then somebody else comes out with an answer and you go, oh my gosh, I should have said that, I was thinking it. You know, I feel like, you know, a lot of times women kind of do that. They don't come out right to claim their space. I've known reports to say that women, sometimes they don't even ask for a raise even when they deserve it. They don't even ask or charge as much money as they should because they feel guilty about charging someone the amount of money that they're bringing, the worth they're bringing in. So I kind of feel like that's kind of one of the things that women need to deal with. What would you say changed in your mind then to bring you to that place of confidence where you were able to now start speaking up, now to be able to assert yourself and take that place on the like you said, metaphorically, the seat on the table, even when you were invited, and if you were not invited, you go and chop the woods and create a table to sit on. At what point did your mind change, and what made your mind change to that?
Well, that's very kind of you to say that it has changed. I think it's something that I battle every time I sit at the table. And because it's just, you know, those sorts of behaviors are hard to change. And I think you have to be aware of it every time. If it is a problem for you, I mean, if it is something that I mean, there are women who don't have this problem. I have a very good friend who has absolutely no problem speaking up.
It's what they call that they've got balls. They're women, but they call them they've got balls. They're ballsy, or otherwise
Yeah,
they call them the B word, other B word.
and oftentimes unliked, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yep.
I have several women in my sphere of people that I are good friends of mine and very good industry professionals in their industries, and people just don't like it when women speak up and say this isn't right.
Yep.
And maybe how we bring that to the table, I don't know. It's still part of that double standard. A man will always ask for that raise if he feels he deserves. I'm sure we both read, all of us have read articles about how, you'll look at a job description and a woman will say, oh, geez, I don't match it here, here, and here. I'm not going in. Where a guy, I match it here and I can get my way through that. That's no problem.
And for the most part, a woman will be called aggressive if they do the same exact thing. They go in believing in themselves. They'll say, oh, she's so stuck up. She's so full of herself. She's aggressive. She's this and that. They'll call them names. Whereas a man, they'll welcome him. They'll be like, yeah, all right, check it out. That's cool.
Right. We want a disruptor.
Different strokes for different folks. Wow. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you. I wish we could go on forever, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So I just wanted to ask you, if there would be one piece of advice that you'd give to the younger viewers that are probably watching, but maybe there could be even somebody older that is watching and has seen that, whatever you've said so far has helped them. And or if there's anything specific that you haven't actually shared with us already that you think that is in your past or in your present that has really helped you to get to the point where you are, what is that one thing that you changed, the switch that you made in your life that can help somebody else?
I opened my mind to different ways to live. And once I did that, it was crazy, the possibilities, just crazy. And this came after Russia and I was in Turkey for 3 years and I was back in Russia. It actually was when I found myself back in the United States, which was not by my choice. I didn't want to come back. Necessarily. I didn't want to no longer be working as an expat in Europe. But situations, economy, politics, etc., all sort of put me in that position. And I realized after a while, I started to realize, wait a minute, I don't have to live like I've always lived. I don't have to do what I've always done. I've got this skill set that goes with me everywhere I go. And it doesn't have to be about doing a CAM reconciliation. It can be about just understanding costs, right? I can take all these other things. And they really opened up my mind. Also to the bit about, I've always wanted to, well, guess what? I can work remotely. Holy moly, it never occurred to me. And I remember sitting at a dinner table and I would really put my head down. I'd gotten an interim position and I'd really put my head down trying to save money. And so this would be one of the huge things I would say, because I didn't do this until I was in my 50s, but I save money because that gives you options.
Yeah.
And I always was spending money right and left, enjoying the now. And then I realized after the last time, there was nothing greater than the peace of mind I had for the money that I had in the bank. That meant that I could take that opportunity to try those options, to try all things. And if they didn't work out, it was okay,
I like that. I like that a lot, because that's one of the things that is in that major book. I don't know if you've read it, The Law of Success. That's one of the major points that they put out. Apart from collaborating with other people and having those relationships, again, recapping on what you said earlier, one of the major things, the laws of success, is saving, of course, like you said, that gives you that liberty to be able to do things that you normally wouldn't do. So that's a very amazing and good insight to give. So if people were to want to contact you and reach out to you and find out a little bit more about this bubbly self person, Shannon, that I've been talking to today, which has been amazing and very, very insightful, how would they contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, of course, and as well as our website for the company that I'm with is Senteo, and it's www.senteo.net. And you can learn about what we do inside of the relationship space. Mm-hmm. And I also do have an Instagram. I'm a photographer as well, so you'll see all sorts of photographs there. It's not really industry related. It's just sort of the other thing that I do.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Wired Women Show today. You've been an amazing addition to the tribe, Shannon, and I look forward to having a conversation again with you in the near future, if you are able to join us, that is. So thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure too, Jennifer. Thank you so much for the invitation.